Have you ever heard of a bond between two people so strong it could defy life and death? Well, we're about to dive into one of the most baffling medical mysteries of the 20th century. It's a story that seriously challenges everything we think we know about human connection. So let me introduce you to Betty Jo and Bobbie Jean Eller. They were identical twins from North Carolina, and by all accounts, their lives were a complete mirror image of one another. But then, for the very first time in their 31 years of life, they're separated. They're placed in different rooms, in different wards of a psychiatric hospital. And on that very first night apart with absolutely no physical contact, they both die within minutes of each other. There was no poison, no signs of violence, no clear medical cause. Nothing. Just silence. So the question that has haunted everyone for over 60 years is the exact same one we're asking today. How on earth is that possible? To even begin to wrap our heads around what might have happened, we have to go back, way back to the beginning. Because the first clue, really, is in the extraordinary connection these twins shared right from birth. Family members said their existence was just perfectly mirrored. If one sister started to laugh, the other would start laughing at the exact same time for the same reason. If one cried, the other would too. This was something way beyond a normal sibling bond. And this wasn't just a casual observation, That phrase, it was like they shared a single mind, was something you'd hear all the time from their family, their teachers, their neighbors. People truly believe they operated on some kind of shared wavelength. So here's a quick look at their journey. They were born in 1931, and that unique bond was their entire world. But so tragically, in their 20s, both sisters started showing signs of a very severe mental illness. They were eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. And by 1962, when they were 31, their family made the incredibly tough decision to have them admitted to Broughton Hospital to get professional care. And it was right there, inside that hospital, that a decision was made. A decision that, from a clinical standpoint, made perfect sense. It was therapeutically motivated, and it turned out to be absolutely catastrophic. The hospital's staff, they picked up on what the family already knew almost immediately, but they gave it a clinical name: extreme codependence. They noticed that if one sister refused her medication, the other one would. If one got agitated, the other would instantly mirror that agitation, even if they were in separate rooms. So the doctor's logic was pretty straightforward. They believed this incredibly intense bond was actually getting in the way of either sister responding to treatment. So they mandated a therapeutic separation. The goal was to try and foster some independence, which was a pretty standard psychiatric approach back then. But the twins, they didn't see it as therapy, not at all. They saw it as a life or death threat. According to the hospital's own reports, they were just utterly terrified. They begged the staff not to separate them, even warning them that they just couldn't live apart. But their pleas were seen as just another symptom of their condition, not a premonition. And that brings us to the climax of this whole story. The one night their greatest fear came true, and that unbreakable bond was put to the ultimate and fatal test. The date was April 11th, 1962. For the first time in their entire lives, Betty Jo and Bobbie Jean Eller went to sleep in separate wards, in separate beds, completely alone. It was just before 1 o'clock in the morning. A nurse doing her rounds walked into Bobbie Jean's ward to check on the patients. And there, the nurse found Bobbie Jean just lying perfectly still in her bed. There were no signs of distress, no struggle at all. She wasn't breathing. She had passed away in her sleep. In all the initial confusion and alarm, a really chilling thought struck one of the staff members. Bobbie Jean had a twin. Her other half, Betty Jo, was clear across the hospital in another ward. You can just imagine the sense of dread that must have filled the hallway as they raced to check on her. What they found confirmed their absolute worst fears and plunged that hospital into a deep and lasting mystery. The event was impossible. So the search for a logical answer had to begin immediately. So here's the really crucial part. What did the autopsies reveal? Or, I guess, what didn't they reveal? The answer is absolutely nothing. No physical trauma, no poison, no hidden heart conditions, no infections that could be detected. The official cause of death for both sisters was simply listed as unknown. Okay, so over the years, 3 main theories have kind of bubbled to the surface. First is psychogenic death, which is basically dying from sheer emotional shock. It's plausible, sure, but the problem is that this process usually takes days or weeks, not minutes. The second theory is an unknown genetic flaw, something that science in 1962 just couldn't detect. But even then, what are the odds of it triggering in both sisters at the exact same moment? It just stretches coincidence to its absolute breaking point. And that leaves us with a third theory, that their bond was so profound, so physiologically real, that the death of one simply caused the other to cease living. The problem with that? There is zero scientific basis for it. It's an explanation that feels true, but it just can't be proven. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with a case that decades and decades later is still one of medicine's most profound and unsettling enigmas. For more than 60 years, doctors, scientists, researchers, they've all looked at this case, and not a single one has ever come up with a definitive answer. The mystery just endures. It's a story that has this tragic, almost poetic symmetry to it, doesn't it? Two lives that were so intertwined, they just couldn't be separated. Not in birth, not in life, and as it turned out, not even in death. So what do you think happened? Was it a 1 in a billion coincidence, some hitting medical condition that was way beyond the science of the day? Or was it proof of a connection between two people that was so powerful it just defies all explanation? That's the question the Eller twins left us with, and it's one we still can't answer.